Hello and welcome back to my craft channel. I have been playing with my August stitch kit box. Quite an adventure. This month it's all about punch needling, and I have been down the most ginormous rabbit hole. It's something I've been wanting to have a go at for quite a while. Tom, many of you will know Tom very well. He's done some, and I've loved what he's done, and I actually did buy myself a punch needle tool some time ago and haven't made time to have a go. So it's been really nice to have a play with that and have a good look at. I've watched quite a lot of videos and I've looked at a lot of blogs and things where people are giving their tips and techniques and things, and it's incredible what you can do with it. Really arty stuff. And really what I'm wanting to get into is using the different. I like, because a lot of the patterns and things, including the one that was in this box, use what I would think of as the reverse side, the smooth side, rather than the loopy, fluffy side. What Tom has done a lot is cut those loops. You cut them all off, and you can kind of sculpt them a bit, and to make it really fluffy. And I love that. I like the idea of combining that texture with the flatter kind of reverse of the stitch, if you like, as well. So I really want to play with that. And what I hadn't realised is you can do what looks like actual embroidery stitches with it as well, like a kind of like a faux stitch and a back stitch and a leaf stitch, all sorts of things. So I did some playing last night. I used there's a frame that came in the kit. This one is a framed. You can see the shadow of what I started doing last night. I drew my own pattern on it. In fact, you can see it better than I could manage to see it when I was working on it last night. And I got carried away. I just thought I'll just do a little bit. I'll just try some, before I kind of try and film anything. And I got carried away and did loads. And then this morning looked at it and thought, no, I don't really like that. I haven't done that very well. I don't want to waste the frame. And I was able to take all of the stitching out, and you can see it's kind of damaged the fabric a little bit, but if you sort of, scratch over the surface a bit, it more or less goes back. I'll still be able to use that again. So what I've done now is give myself something much simpler to try to kind of video for the first time, and I've just drawn myself this rainbow, and I've drawn it on the reverse because I want to use mostly the fluffy side. So this will be the right side. And I've based it on the idea of this one, which was on the packaging that came with that little frame. I've changed the shape of it a little bit and stuff, but I liked the idea with this one. Let's go to the desk a minute. I liked this idea of having the fluffy cloud and then the wool tassels coming down. But I want to make a difference, unlike what they've done here. I want to make a difference in the texture. So I want this, the clouds I'm going to leave all kind of loopy. And then the rainbow part I'm going to cut down to create a kind of fluffy pile. And then the sky part I'm going to use what I think of as the reverse of the stitch. So the loopy bits will be on the back and it will be like a smooth. So that will be that. I think that's quite a nice simple design to just try those 3 different basic techniques. Now, there was a bit of an issue with this box has got fuller since I received it, actually, because I've now got some extra pieces and my scissors and all sorts of things in there. But yeah, I'll explain that as I go along. That was the picture of the flowers that I drew that I used on it, that I pulled it all out. But I'm going to keep that because I might use it again. I still quite like it. And the idea was that I could do this one as the kind of sculpted pile. These tulips with the kind of sculpted pile effect. These could be more of like an embroidery stitch with some flat stitching here and some loopier parts around the edge. This could be like the fluffy pile, but this could be more like long and short stitches. These would be kind of more like pom-poms. This would be more embroidery. So it would be this. I thought these would all give me a chance to try a few different techniques. But it was a bit ambitious as my first project, I think. So I'm going to keep that to one side. and just do this really simple thing for my first project. And I'm quickly filming this beginning now, because what I'm going to do is be working on it during the Whip and Waffle Wednesday, which is less than an hour away now. So what I did was actually I held my picture that I'd drawn on the back, and I just held this up against a window so the light shone through, and then I could see it well enough to draw this in. Pen won't show, it will kind of all get covered up anyway, but it won't show because I've done it on the wrong side. With these I actually did pencil on the right side, so that is still showing, but I don't think it will once I've got all of my rainbow and my sky and everything in. It'll be fine. I did discover that it's not a good idea to prick your finger with the punch needle tool. I've added a bit of DNA to my project here. I've picked out, they gave us loads of cut. There's plenty of wool in here to do several projects with. I've picked out some of the colours here. These are the yarns that I had used last night and pulled out this morning, so you can easily do that and use them again. The only ones I couldn't use again were where I'd trimmed them to create that lovely fluffy pile. So yeah, I can easily use these again, so that's good. There's my scissors, I'm going to need them in a minute. These will be my colours for the rainbow, and this is for the clouds and this for the sky. There is a darker blue as well. There's this blue in the kit, but I think I'm going to prefer this one. So this is the pattern that it sent me, just out of interest, and this is where it's all using, as I say, what I would call the reverse of the stitch, which I think is fine, but I kind of feel like it's missing half the charm of the the point of it being punch needle for me, and I want to experiment with the contrast between the fluffy and the smooth. So yeah, but these are, if you look at my stitch kit playlist, which I'll link to, you'll see where I opened this box and I showed some of the other, and linked to some of the other resources for free punch needle patterns that you can get if you don't want to draw your own. Dug out my embroidery hoops in different sizes, some different fabrics to experiment with. So Tom gave me these pieces of monk's cloth. This came in the pack that he bought as well. I don't even know what it's called. I thought this might be good for doing some of the finer work maybe. And I've also got a piece of this, which I thought I'd experiment with too, with a finer needle and finer thread. And just when I was looking that up, I found this, the only other punch needle I've ever done, and I did it with Tom kind of thing. But this was the beginning of a bee, and I never finished him, so I've got to finish him. I mean, it's not perfect, but I still think it's quite cute, and he deserves to be finished. I might add some flowers and things now as well to finish him off. And there's no reason why you can't incorporate beading or felting or embroidery or whatever else you want to add into it as well, and just use the punch needle as a part of the work. I've seen some beautiful examples. If you do a Google image search and put in punch needle designs or punch needle art, it's phenomenal what people do. Beware, some of it is AI, is fake. It's not actually possible. It's AI's version of what punch needle looks like, punch needle designs look like, although actually sometimes that can give you some really good ideas. But yes, I also thought, as well as the frames, I loved this idea. I didn't even know till I got this kit that these things existed already kind of framed, which is brilliant because then it's all ready to hang on a wall, isn't it? So what I thought was, I'll find a cheap picture frame and I'll try making up one of these myself. So I got this at the charity shop the other day when I was out with Tom. You can see it only cost me £1 and it's never even been opened. And actually the design, the sort of display design in this frame would be quite a fun one to punch needle as well, I think. I thought that was a good find. Right, they can go out of the way now. So the other thing to mention is, obviously the kit from Stitch Kit included a punch needle tool. Unless you tell them otherwise, they always include all the tools and everything you need. You can elect, because they custom make the boxes for each person, what you can do is say, don't send me tools, I've got loads of tools for everything, don't need any more tools, but just send me the supplies, the patterns, that kind of thing. But otherwise they will always send you what you need to make a project or several projects. So of course they sent the punch needle tool. Now what they did, and this wasn't their fault, they were missold, they were misinformed by their suppliers. This was the punch needle that they put in the kit. As you can see, I thought as soon as I took it out and looked at it properly, I thought, uh-oh, you can see this is a very fine one. This one is actually intended, the blurb I found actually said it was intended, it's best used with 3 strands of embroidery floss, which means probably it would also work with perlé, like number 8 perlé, which is lovely, and I really want to experiment with that, but it won't work on this thickness of fabric, and it won't work with this thickness of yarn. So I got hold of Kirsty and Rachel at Stitch Kit really quickly, and they were mortified. They felt awful because they really pride themselves in putting in good quality tools and everything that you need, and giving really good value for money. Those girls work so hard and they care so much about what they do. They immediately got hold of the people that they'd already sent kits out to and arranged to send them a replacement. And they actually looked at some other needles that they'd got, but when they looked at them they weren't happy with the quality, so they didn't want to send them out. So they straight away ordered other needles in a different size, which they will get out to. They will put out in future kits, and they will replace the ones they'd already sent out. But I said to them, don't bother sending me one, because I know I've already got one, because I bought it when Tom had a go, and of course because Tom had it, I had to have it. So that's the packaging that this one came in. Now, one of the things that I saw that I didn't realise you can do, as I say, is this like faux embroidery, but much faster. And I've seen some beautiful things done, and I really, really want to try that. So I'm glad to have this tool. And I will put some of the finer cloth into a smaller hoop and have a go with this and see what I can do. Now this kit that I bought, these are the threaders that you use to get the yarn or thread into the punch needle tool. It's almost impossible to do it without these. You could kind of bend a piece of wire or something, but these usually come with the punch needle tools, and they're much easier to use. So this one, you've got this one handle and everything else is supposed to fit into it. So you've got this really thick one. The one that I used successfully with this double knitting wool was this size, and you just in fact actually I ended up not using it in this, I just used it like this. The only thing I'm bothered about is that because with punch needle you've got two things. You've got the thickness of the actual needle, and that's you need to choose that according to the yarn that you're using. You need to choose one. I've got so many videos about this. You need to choose it so it kind of fits in there snugly but flows freely through the needle, but not too freely. So this size seemed to work perfectly for this double knitting wool. But you can see that I've got other ones down to really, really fine. What's the finest one? Is that the finest? That's the finest. I mean, I would say that would be like one strand of embroidery floss. So I think with this you put that on there, tighten it up, and that goes in the tool. The other thing, so apart from the kind of gauge of the needle, you also want to be able to adjust the length, because that makes a difference to the length the loop that you're creating comes out. And one of the things I'd like to be able to do is a shorter loop on the rainbow part, for example, and a longer loop on the clouds, so that I can do some sculpting on the clouds. And I just kind of assumed, and I think this is probably the case. Now I don't know if this is the one if this is similar to the one that the girls are now going to send out with their Stitch Kit ones, but because there are so many different ones. You get needles or tools where you can change the length of the pile, if you like, by this kind of ratcheted thing on the side. Yeah, so with this I can just move this up and down to get a longer and shorter pile. I found that was difficult to do with this though, and I don't know if what I'm meant to do is move this slidey bit up and down, because it does move a bit. I couldn't work that out last night, so I ended up just doing all my pile the same length, because I couldn't do anything about it. Yeah, I thought I moved that a minute ago, but it doesn't want to move now, because this, I mean, it's funny, this casing is separate, so it just makes me think that it's designed to move up and down. And then so if I move that up and then stick it through the thread, it's only going to come out that far through the thread. Through the cloth, it's only going to come out that far. Do you see what I mean? Whereas if that was pushed down a bit, it will go all the way through to there and make a longer pile. So I think maybe that's what you're meant to do. But I'm finding with this one, which is the one I have to use for this gauge of thread, I just can't move this. I don't know if it'll loosen up with use. I just can't move this up and down very easily. And I know different needles that I've seen people using have different ways of altering that length. So I'm going to try and just alter it by moving it up and down in the holder like that. Let's see if that works. So yeah, this is really what I'm doing, is sharing what I'm finding out as I go along. Certainly what I did last night, you can see how much I did last night. It was pretty quick. The light was pretty poor downstairs, so I was struggling a little bit, but considering it was my first attempt, apart from that bee ages ago, I was pretty happy with that, and I feel confident enough to now have a go at my rainbow. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a start on during the live today, and then I'll come back, and the next bit of film I do, I will have made a good start on that rainbow, and then I'm going to set up some of the monk's cloth in a larger hoop and some of the finer cloth in a smaller hoop, and have a bit of an experiment with different techniques. And I'll also, during the course of the month, I'll try different types of threads and different kinds of yarns. I've got loads of yarns. That's a lovely thing. You can use up quite small scraps of yarns, and I'll see what we can do with it. I wouldn't mind just doing some abstract pieces with just abstract layers, trying all the different types of threads. I think that could be really fun, and it would sort of take the stress out of it a bit if it was just, kind of perhaps just lines, just abstract kind of wavy lines, each one being a different colour and texture of yarn and thread. I think that could be it would be an interesting experiment, and I think it could end up looking quite kind of artsy as well. So yeah, definitely going to be doing a lot of experimenting with it this month and going into next month, because this is such a busy month. I haven't got as long to spend on it as I would like to, so I think this is going to kind of cross over. But yeah, yet again, Stitch Kit have got me doing something I wouldn't have got round to otherwise. So yeah, very excited about this. Okay, I'm going to stop waffling now and get myself ready for the live, because it's not long now. I'll see you again in a minute. There we go. This is what I managed to get done during the stream, so you can see I was working from the back, so this is like the reverse of the stitch really, but then it's nice to sometimes use this as on the front of the design, to give that difference in texture. So this kind of effect, only hopefully neater by then, is what I'll use for the background sky. And then on the back you get these loops. So here I've trimmed them down. I started trimming them down to create this lovely soft fluffy pile, and it's amazing that you get this lovely fluffy softness from this cotton yarn. My plan is I probably will end up cutting this down more, but I've left it at that for now. I was just trying to show people during the live what sort of effect you get. Once I've added the other colours, I'll trim it all properly. I think at the moment my intention is that for the clouds, for a bit of a difference, I'll leave them loopy like this, and then I'll add lengths in for the yarn to finish the end of the rainbow, and maybe even add beads onto that so that they dangle down below here. So I thought I'd just show you a quick look at how you do this. Let's try a different colour just to give me a bit of a change. So you work straight from the ball. As I said, I think earlier, I found that this size seemed to be ideal, just give me just about the right amount of tension and not too much. So to thread the needle, first of all you need to bring it up through from here up to the tip, and then you need to take it out through the back. With these larger size needles you can actually do that all in one go. So you put your needle threader in the back. You've got to remember this is the front, this cut off angled side is the front, and this is the back. So if I go in the back and down through the shaft of the needle all the way down till it pokes out the bottom there. With the smaller, thinner needles you need to bring the thread up through here first. Excuse me, sneezing. And then in a second movement you go through the back, but let's do it all in one go. pull the yarn up through the shaft of the needle and out to that eye at the back, all in one go. Don't need to make a knot or anything like that. You do need to make sure you've got plenty of slack here. You don't want any kind of tension. Sometimes you'll find you accidentally kind of, earlier on I found my scissors had rested on it, and that was just putting too much tension. If you get too much tension, you just skip stitches. So this is, this being the front of the needle, you make sure that that's always facing in the direction you're working. So if I'm going to start here and do this smallest arch now in this blue, just got a little end here, I'm going to just poke in where I want to start and just push it all the way down to where you've got that kind of stop, that natural stop, because of this thing, whatever, it'll be different on different tools. And make sure you go all the way down like that every single stitch. If you start not going down quite all the way, you'll get uneven stitches. And then for this first time, what you do is get hold of that end that's there and pull it right the way through, so all the end is on the outside. And then I actually pull it through a little bit more from here, so I'm pulling on this to pull that up a bit, because there's no point in wasting the yarn. It doesn't need to be longer than that. And now we can start. So whichever way you do it, whether you've got it on a frame like this or on an embroidery hoop, you need to make sure it's as really tight as a drum, this fabric. Don't go gripping the thing like that so that you're putting tension on the yarn. Just let that lie loose. Keep checking back to make sure there's plenty of yarn pulled out and it's not caught on anything. And then you just pull the needle up, remembering that that front of the needle is facing in the direction I'm going to be following. And don't pull it right up like this and go down. You don't want to take it off the fabric at all. So I'll do that again now, haven't I? I'm putting it in there. Let's pull that yarn through again. So I've got it all the way down to the stop. I'm pulling it up, but I'm not pulling it out of the... I'm putting it just out of the fabric, but keeping the needle on the fabric, only pulling it out just enough to clear that hole. And then I'm going forward to make a little stitch. And pushing down again. Putting it up, not bringing it out too much, moving forward another stitch. And obviously how long you make these stitches depends on what effect you're after. But that sort of length seems to make a nice dense pile for what I'm doing at the moment. For different types of stitches you can use different lengths to get different effects. So make sure you push all the way down each time. I've got a loopy one there. So there's two things I can do there. I could easily just pull it back, or I could just, because I'm going to have a pile I'm going to cut down anyway, I think for ease I'm just going to pull that through. But in a minute when that happens again, which it certainly will, I'll show you how easy it is to just unpick it a couple of stitches. Sometimes you find without you realising, you're popping away thinking you're doing fine because you're half watching the telly or whatever, and you don't realise it's got caught around your scissors, or you're slightly leaning on it, or you haven't pulled enough out from the ball, and so the yarn isn't feeding through, and you find that all you're doing is carrying a straight line across here, in which case it's easy to just go back to where you were and pick it up again. It's pretty forgiving actually. Always turning my front of my needle to face the way I'm working. And what I'm finding I'm doing is also turning the frame, but I notice that watching a lot of other people, they just keep turning the needle and keep the frame where it is. I think with practice I should be able to do that. You can see how pretty quick and easy that is. I'm trying to keep the stitches reasonably even, but I aren't too fussed about it. There you go. And on the back we've got all those loops. And it's like looking at the cotton yarn loops there, it's hard to imagine you get this lovely fluffy dense pile. My idea is that I want this to stand proud of the background sky colour, and I want the cloud to stand proud of this, so I probably will end up trimming this down just a little bit more, but but I decided to leave it at that for the time being until I've done all my stitching. So I just keep on turning this needle as I go. Whoops, just sensed a bit of tension going on there. It's very easy to keep popping along because it feels right. So I'll show you it. I'll make it happen. So say I was sort of inadvertently leaning on that. Let's do a few stitches and we'll see what happens. Yeah, there. That's what happens. So it just skips across and you kind of think out your corner of your eye it looks like you're following that, but you're not. You've got this long straight stitch because it's just been trapped there and hasn't been able to feed through and make a loop at the back. So that's alright. If that happens, just take your hook out, pull the yarn back to before it all went horribly wrong. So back to there. Gently pull this yarn up so that there's no loop there again, and just carry on. Start again. You can go back in a few times into this fabric, I think, but that's what I'm finding so far. But eventually, I suppose you will wreck the fabric and you won't have to do that anymore. And now I'm turning again. I'm going to come back round here. So I need to turn the needle again so that the front is coming down towards me. Let's see if I can manage to do it without actually turning the frame this time. I'm watching other people who've clearly been doing this for a long time. You get very quick at doing this bit once you get into a rhythm with it. Keeping on turning that needle. I think when I do I'm hoping that doing all this practicing, going around these curves and then doing the clouds as well, I'm going to get more practiced at doing this straight stitching, so they'll get more uniform, so that when I come to do the sky where it'll just be these stitches, I'll be a bit better at doing it, a bit more uniform, because they really will show. I mean, them being a bit sort of slapdash like this, once you've trimmed them and done all that stuff, you can't tell. But when you're going to see them like this, you can see the difference. So yeah, I thought with the clouds, that Tom's suggestion was that, which I think is a good one, that with the clouds, instead of going around following the curve and then going round and round and round and round like that, I'm going to go back and forward and see if I can practice getting uniform stitches. I'm not doing too well so far. This is not an expert tutorial. This is a beginner having a go tutorial. If I decided I really hated this and wanted to have another go, I could just pull the whole thing out relatively easily and wind the yarn off as I go and use it again and start again. No big deal. Obviously, like I said just now, there's going to be a limit to the number of times you can do that to the fabric, but it's standing up quite well so far. I definitely find it easier to work right to left. I might even with the when I come to do the straight stitches to fill in the sky part, where, as I say, it's going to be this reverse that will become the front, I might even make them bigger stitches. I think that might look neater for that. Very taken with the idea of combining this with beading. Some suggestions people were coming up with during the stream were really interesting, like painting the background fabric with ink tents and then only punching into part of it. Yeah, adding beads and embroidery, and like a kind of stitchy version of mixed media, just mixing all of these different techniques together. I'm going to keep going, do a little bit more of this, and then when I've got enough of this filled in, I'll come back and show you how it looks when you trim it. You can see it's already. I think that's really cool, and I could just leave them loopy like this. I'm frustrated that I can't, with the tool that I've got, I can't change the length so I can make these really little short loops, because that's a really interesting effect as well. So I may even end up splurging on another tool or finding a way to adjust the loop length on this that works for me. Talking about it to Tom during the stream, and his tool is different. You can adjust the length more easily. I did cheap out when I bought this. So I thought, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy it, you know, I don't want to spend too much on it. The trouble is, if you get a naff tool, you're not going to enjoy the craft, are you? Because you can't get the result you're after, and it's not a pleasure. Right, I will be back when I filled in this little section. There we go, I've finished all of that area now. That's how it looks on the back, that's how it looks on the front. So you can see it's quite gappy on the back. I haven't really got my stitching very uniform at all. But by the time you, when you turn it over and just look at it either like that with all just the loops, if that's the effect you want, or when you cut it down now to make it more like this fluffy pile, it's fine. I do need to make myself keep practicing trying to get more regular stitching though before I come to attempt the sky, and I think it's gonna help to do the clouds just going back and forth in straight rows rather than going around like this or just higgledy-piggledy. So let's just show you how it works when you... Tom advised cutting one row of loops at a time. As you do each row, cut the loops, because he finds that easier. I just keep forgetting, so it's not happening. What I've done before is just not bother cutting the loops first, but just cut the top straight off. But sometimes you can just miss a couple of... You've only got to miss 1 or 2 loops and you get this little blip in your lovely smooth fluffy pile. What I need is a tiny pair of really sharp snips. Yeah, if you just miss any of these little loops, it spoils the look of it, so I can see why Tom says that. And also he said he sometimes found that once he'd done 1 or 2 rows, sometimes as he went through doing subsequent rows, his needle would catch on the loops of the row before. So if you've already snipped the loops through, that can't happen. So yeah, I can see the wisdom of that as well. So if I just, that's enough to show you this little area. So what I'll do then is cut it all level across the top like that. And then depending on the shape, so if I was wanting to do the clouds this way, as I say, I think I'm going to leave the clouds loopy just for a bit of a change. But I could do that, and I could kind of sculpt the edges of the clouds by trimming down that way like that to round off the shape. And I might end up doing that just at the outer edge of the rainbow at the end. I'm not going to do it on these lines in between because I think I want them to, I don't want each strip curving over separately. I don't think I might end up wanting to do that. It's difficult to know where to stop doing this. So you can see already there's quite a lot more to do, but you can see, and you can fluff it up more as well. You just get this lovely fluffy effect quite quickly, which I think is really satisfying. And I just love the idea of playing with all the different ways of doing it. I just wish I could do the thing with the smaller loops as well, because I think that would be really fun. Yeah, so I'm going to experiment a bit and see what I can do. But that's it for this bit of the video. I'll be back in a minute when, well, just be a minute for you, quite a bit longer for me, when I've done all of this part, and then we'll see how I get on with doing the straight stitching for the sky. What I've got to bear in mind is that because we've got the frame here, I won't be able to stitch all the way here. We'll have to leave these edges bare, but that's okay. I think I'll quite like the look of that. Right, so this is how I got on. I took this downstairs to do last night. Trimmed all this back. I think I need a bit more practice at trimming this neatly. Tom usually does a better job of it than this, but you can see now how the cotton yarn now has gone completely kind of fluffy. Well, I've trimmed it all back. I thought it was a good idea to do the trimming before I do this background, because all the little bits of fluff would be a lot harder to get off of here. I've started doing a bit of a practice run at the straight stitching I'm going to do in the background. You can see I wasn't doing too well here to start with. I've missed some stitches there and not even noticed, but that's probably where that thinner patch is there. But I think overall, that's okay. I can live with that. And I decided, whereas here I was going across, roughly kind of going across 2 of the little squares in the fabric with each stitch, I've decided for the background I'm going to go across 3. I say roughly because when you have to go not in a straight line, it's just you're guesstimating it really. And I seem to end up not always going into one of the holes in the fabric, but sometimes you end up going kind of in between. Yeah, so what I'm doing is for these straight stitches I'm making sure I'm going into the holes of the fabric and I'm counting 3 across, and then I've ended up going 1 down there as well, but yeah, I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I've got a bit of a gap there, but I think I'm just gonna keep ploughing on now, and I thought I'll do a bit with you. Now I've sort of got the hang of it a bit more. Okay, so where I've come to the end of that row there, I'm now going to have to go back off towards the left again. So I'm going to turn my needle so the front of the needle is pointing that way. Go down, turn it again, and now I'm facing it towards the left where I'm going to be heading. And I decided it was a good idea to kind of interlock the stitches rather than have them all, every row, going to the same point. So oops, so I'm going to do this first stitch a little bit shorter than the others, and I'm also packing them closer, so if you can see there. No, actually let's wait till I get it out to a point where it shows a bit better. So yeah, I think with these I was going in like that one. Now I'm going in that one, packing the stitches much more closely so I don't get the gaps in between like I've got there. It doesn't matter when you're going to be using the fluffy side, but if you're looking at the reverse side, it does matter. You don't want that gap here, it doesn't look very nice. So yeah, I'm going quite close to, I'm going in every row basically, sort of skipping 3 of the squares in the fabric each time. I'm still going quite slowly, don't feel confident to go quickly yet. Keep making sure but I know some of the people I've watched, when they're doing this, they just go really quickly. Do a little short stitch there. And what I have been doing is doing a stitch downwards to the next row, but I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. I think that looks a bit messy, so I'm not going to do it. And as I say, because I find it easy to just work right to left, I'm just going to do that because I don't want to mess it up. Now, I do still feel like I need to go in that stitch. No. Still feel like I need to do that downwards to get me in the right place for the next row. Changed my angle of my needle again. I'm sure I will get faster once I get more confident with this. Let's get right up to here. Don't want any gaps. I think I'll get one more stitch in. There we go. That's pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect. I feel like that could be sort of tighter, but I think it's okay, and it doesn't feel like it's going to come out or anything. You see all the fluffy side on the back. So yeah, it's that simple. I think, you know, if I keep going with this, by the time I've made that loose now, by the time I've filled in this background, that would be really good practice at getting the stitches uniform, you know. Yeah, I think before I really wasn't going, I was kind of almost missing a row. So yeah, I think I'm going to be quite happy with that now. So this end, you see I've not quite gone to the end. I'm going to have to do one stitch there, turn the needle, take it down a row. And I know people who are way better at this than me don't keep turning the frame or the canvas like this. They just turn the angle of the needle, and I see that they're sort of twizzling the hook when they need to rotate the needle. They're twizzling it before they bring it up, and they probably instinctively know how much they need to twizzle it and in what direction to get it heading in the right direction with their stitch. But yeah, I'm not that confident. I'm just going to keep going with that. I don't think you probably need to see any more of that. I think I'm going to carry on and do this. I'll come back and show you how it looks when that's all done. And then I think I'll have had enough practice at the basic technique to branch out a bit and explore some of the other ideas that I want to play with. I think it's a fascinating technique, and I think that what I'm really, really going to enjoy is incorporating it, is combining it with other techniques. I'm going to enjoy using different types of backing fabric and different types of threads and yarns and fibres and things, and see what I can do with them. Okay, right, back in a moment to show you how it turned out. There we go. So I've finished all of the sky. I'm in some areas I managed to get really neat, like there's a little patch here where I got it really neat and uniform, then keep going back and forth here and changing direction. I got a bit scruffy. It's a bit scruffy here as well. Yeah, it's not perfect. I need to practice that more. I'm not all that delighted with that, but I think the overall impression, you're not even really going to see that. I'm happy enough with that. I wasn't unhappy enough with it to unpick it and start again, that's for sure. So now what I want to do is put some trails of the wool here to match the colours in the rainbow and have them come down here. And all I'm doing is cutting a length. I went about 40 centimetres, I think. And I wasn't really quite sure how best to do this. I ended up coming up from the back. Oh, interesting to see the back. Saying about the back, I actually love the look of the back. I could almost hang it up that way instead. It doesn't look like a rainbow anymore. It looks like something weird. But it did make me think that I quite like the idea of making this almost like a box frame, using these kind of frames. So all the pile is inside like that. I think that gives me another little idea to play with. But anyway, so the way I did the drop thing, I just put my crochet hook through and wiggle it about a bit to do it, pull that through where I want it to come out, folded my 40 centimetre length of yarn in half and pull that loop through. Whoops, it's a little bit I didn't find it easy. I don't know if there's an easier way to do this. If anybody's got one, do let me know. You've got quite a lot going through there already. I do wonder if I might be able to get away with just hooking it through one of these stitches, but then I might pull it out, so I don't want to do that. So, and then I went in again, either just above or just below it. I think just above is going to be neater if I can. Find a little hole, wiggle it through, and then pull the loop that I just pulled through. I'm pulling that back out again. So it's going to be a bit of a fiddle doing this, but I think it's worth it. I love the look of it in that picture. It might be that I'd be better off doing it with a needle. Now I can just put the two ends through the loop. And pull it up tight. And then that'll all be, where it's knotted on, will be hidden inside the cloud. I think I need to do quite a few of those to make it full enough. Not the last but one stitch kit box where we did macrame, so we got this set of, it's 3 actually, I've only got 2 here, of kind of bodkins with the loop eyes. So let's try that. I think let's try doing it like this. So I've put the whole loop through the eye of this needle. Go in here quite next to it, pull it through. Okay, I'm just going to come out just above it. Yeah, that is easier than doing it with a crochet hook, I think. I think that'll work. Yeah, that's definitely easier doing it that way. So now I've got, there's the loop. Put my tails through the loop. I should hold it okay. Yeah. As I say, I think it might be quite fun to actually put beads on the end of these as well. I could also unravel the wool to make it more kind of fluffy. I might do that as well. So I'm going to work my way through. I won't make you sit and watch me do that. I'm going to work my way through and do all of the colours. I think I will try with 4 of the loops and see if that looks okay, because that seems to be what they've done in that picture, and that looks alright. And then I will be done with this. I don't mind the bare edges around there, but I guess you could do something to change that if you wanted to, or you could, you know, could put it in a full frame if you don't like that as well, or you know, trim it with something or do a bit of stitching on there. But I quite like it. I like the look of it like that. That's fine for me. Right, here we go. I'm done. I threaded some beads on, not every single one, but just some of them, just so it looks nice when it's, yeah, just to get adds a bit of something. I'm not completely convinced I've done the right thing there. I might even decide that I just want to cut them off there. I think that might be, that might just be a bit too much. But anyway, I'm done with that for now. I'm really pleased with it for my first experiment. It's definitely far from perfect. I mean, actually looking at it now, sometimes you see things clearer when you look on the screen when you're filming. When you look at, it's like when you take a picture of something on your mobile, you see it in a different way. Maybe I am just going to cut them off at that level. I think that might be better. Shall I just do it now? I don't know, hanging on the wall it might be better. Hang on, let me hold it up for you and you can see as well. I can't decide. I simply can't decide. Like that or like that. I'm going to do what you always need to do at times like this and walk away from it and come back and have a look with fresh eyes later on. Let me just get my thumbnail. So I'm happy with that for my first attempt. Definitely lots more practice needed, but it has really whetted my appetite for experimenting some more with this technique and all the different textures and things you can get. I'm going to do some of the finer embroidery. I'm going to try out different types of threads and weights of yarn and things, different types of background fabrics, and try combining it with paint and beads and all kinds of other things. I just think, yeah, there's a lot. It's a big rabbit hole. What do you think? Have you tried punch needling? Would you try punch needling? Did you get the stitch kit box? If so, what did you get in yours? Please do share pictures and things of any of your punch needle projects. I'd love to see in the Facebook group or Discord community. If you're interested in getting hold of stitch kit boxes, they don't just do punch needling, as you know, they do all sorts of different needle crafts, and I thoroughly recommend them. I will put a link to stitch kit in the description box as well, so you can check them out for yourself. So that's it for me for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.